Have you ever experienced that really peculiar, almost electric tingle? The one that kind of starts at the back of your head, maybe from, I don't know, a soft whisper, or someone just gently, rhythmically tapping their fingers.
Yeah. Yeah, I know exactly what you mean.
It's this sensation that might sort of crawl down your spine,
Yeah.
and it leaves you feeling wrapped in this wave of really profound relaxation, calm.
Right.
For a lot of us, it's just been this weird kind of unnamed feeling we've maybe stumbled upon, perhaps watching someone quietly doing a task or listening to a very specific sound. But for ages, it was just that unexplainable thing.
And that thing, that really unique sensory experience, well, now it actually has a widely recognized name, Autonomous Sensory Meridian Response, or ASMR.
ASMR, right.
And at its heart, ASMR is a deeply personal physiological reaction. It happens in response to specific audiovisual triggers and sometimes tactile ones, too. The classic sign, the hallmark, is often that tingling sensation, usually around the skull, which can then, travel down the spine. And it creates this cascade of intense relaxation, this feeling of security, a real sense of well-being.
Wow.
What's really fascinating, though, is just how recently this whole phenomenon has been formally, acknowledged. Before Jennifer Allen coined the term ASMR back in 2010.
So 2010, that's really recent.
It is. Before that, this unique experience was mostly just talked about anecdotally on internet forums. People were trying to describe it, sometimes quite provocatively. They called it things like brain orgasm.
Whoa, okay.
Or even attention-induced head orgasm. These sort of informal origins really highlight how people were desperately trying to grasp and articulate something so distinct yet so elusive.
It's incredible, isn't it, to think that something so many people clearly felt was, for such a long time, just floating around without a common vocabulary.
Oh, yeah.
So, okay, our mission for this deep dive, then, is to really unpack ASMR, not just as that fleeting tingling sensation, but as a much richer, more complex, and definitely evolving human experience. We're going to explore its emerging scientific underpinnings, really delve into its profound social and emotional sides, look at its significant cultural impact, because it is a global thing now, and even confront its surprising and sometimes maybe ethically complex role in modern marketing.
Yeah, that's a big part of it now.
You might feel like you've heard a whisper or two about ASMR, maybe seen a YouTube video, but trust us, there's like a whole universe of understanding to explore here, far beyond just the sounds you might recognize.
Absolutely. And to guide us on this pretty extensive journey, we've carefully pulled together a diverse stack of sources. We want to give you a truly comprehensive perspective.
Good. What are we looking at?
Well, we'll be drawing key insights from a really groundbreaking qualitative study. It was published in PLOS One, and it really focuses on the lived experiences of people who consume ASMR. It gives a voice to how people actually feel and use it.
Okay, so first-hand accounts.
Exactly. We're also bringing in analyses from Lund University and the Diva portal. These shed crucial light on ASMR as this burgeoning cultural phenomenon and its really intricate ties to modern digital intimacy.
Digital intimacy. Interesting.
Yeah. And we'll touch on an overview from the Cleveland Clinic, too, just for a solid scientific foundation, and even dip into the, unfiltered discussions happening in online communities like Reddit. That helps grasp the ground-level dynamics, the challenges faced by creators and consumers alike.
Right, get the real talk.
Pretty much.
Yep.
So by the end of this, you should have a truly multifaceted, well-rounded understanding of what ASMR is all about.
Okay, let's dive in then. ASMR. For so many people, like you said, the immediate thought is those soft sounds, right? And the tingles they cause. It feels very physical, almost automatic. But what does the newer, more nuanced research actually tell us about it? Is it really just about that initial physical hit? Because it sounds like the story is way more complex.
You're absolutely right to flag that complexity. Early research on ASMR, well, there wasn't much of it, frankly. And when it did exist, it was largely quantitative.
Just numbers.
Just numbers, exactly. It often treated ASMR as this fixed physiological response, focusing almost entirely on measuring, are the tingles there or not, yes or no?
Kind of black and white.
Very black and white. And this approach was probably influenced partly by the acronym itself, which, as you mentioned, had these roots that sounded a bit like pseudoscience maybe, or just some fleeting internet trend.
Right. Autonomous Sensory Meridian Response does sound a bit out there.
Yeah. It does. So the assumption was this universal, uniform physical reaction, almost like a knee-jerk reflex to a certain sound. But then this really groundbreaking qualitative study, the PLOS one paper we mentioned, it completely shifted that perspective.
How so? What did they do differently?
Instead of just measuring tingles or hooking people up to machines right away, they took a qualitative approach. They used in-depth, semi-structured interviews with people who self-identified as ASMR consumers.
So they talked to them.
They really talked to them. And this was a crucial choice, methodologically. It was specifically designed to understand their lived experience, what it actually feels like, how it fits into their lives, and also their conscious consumption of ASMR content.
Meaning, like, why they choose to watch it.
Exactly. Their deliberate choices, their intentions when they seek it out. And what they found was profound. ASMR is far, far more than just a physical tingle. It's a deeply personal, multidimensional experience.
So it's not just a reflex. It's this whole rich experience that people are actively seeking out and interpreting for themselves. That completely shifts things, doesn't it?
It really does.
What were the big takeaways, the really groundbreaking insights that came from looking at it that way, qualitatively?
It was a huge paradigm shift.
Yeah.
The study basically identified 3 key themes that broadened our understanding way beyond just tingles. First, they explored who and what defines ASMR.
Okay.
This theme really reflected the incredible variety in what people actually considered ASMR, and maybe more importantly, the super diverse content they consume to get that feeling.
So not just whispering.
Oh, far from it. It showed vividly that what triggers one person might do absolutely nothing for another. It highlighted just how idiosyncratic, how subjective the whole thing is. It's definitely not a universal set of triggers.
Makes sense. What else?
Secondly, there was this fascinating theme of real intimacy tailored to me. This captured the deeply personal, almost bespoke perception of intimacy that ASMR content seemed to make possible for viewers.
Wow, real intimacy from a video. How does that work?
Well, it wasn't like a generic one-size-fits-all intimacy. Participants felt it was something they experienced uniquely, almost shaped by their own individual preferences and needs. It made it feel incredibly personal, incredibly authentic to them.
Tailored intimacy. I like that. And the third theme?
The third was emotional relief on my terms. This spoke directly to the really profound and intentional role ASMR plays in self-soothing for many people, providing comfort, helping manage emotional states, often in very deliberate, controlled ways.
So people are actively using it for comfort.
Absolutely. This qualitative data, it just painted this picture of a rich, complex, deeply meaningful experience. It suggested much wider psychological and emotional uses than just, getting a fleeting physical sensation.
That's a really interesting progression from just a tingle to something so layered. And it leads us perfectly into talking about the triggers themselves. Because we're talking about way more than just like a little brush on a microphone, aren't we?
Yeah.
It sounds like a whole universe of things can create this tailored feeling.
Oh, absolutely. The range of triggers people report is incredibly vast, and it just keeps expanding as creators get more, experimental.
So what are some of the common ones? Besides the whispering.
Well, the common intentional ASMR triggers, the ones ASM artists, as they're called, actively try to include, yes, soft whispering, but also that gentle, almost inaudible soft speaking. Distinct tapping sounds on different surfaces, like wood or plastic. A delicate scratching sound.
Okay.
Incredibly slow, precise, expert hand movements. And maybe one of the most powerful triggers, that feeling of close, undivided personal attention from the creator.
Right, like they're focused just on you.
Exactly. And think about the common formats you see. You've got the classic setup, the seated ASM artist looking right into the camera, maybe a gentle smile, performing these sound-focused acts, crinkling paper, brushing the mic.
Yeah, I've seen those.
But then you also get these really elaborate, immersive simulations. These can range from highly realistic medical exams, like a virtual eye test or an ear checkup, to soothing virtual haircuts, calming massages, or even really mundane tasks presented meticulously, like detailed tutorials on folding towels, or customer service role plays where the focus is entirely on you, the viewer. They're all designed very carefully to induce that unique sensory response and that feeling of relaxation.
And it's fascinating because it's not always about someone trying to make ASMR, right? There's this whole other category of unintentional ASMR that people just kind of discover.
That's a really insightful point, yeah. Unintentional ASMR refers to videos or sounds that were never made with the goal of triggering ASMR, but they just happen to prompt the response in people who are sensitive to it.
Like what? Give me an example.
Well, the classic, widely cited example that comes up all the time is Bob Ross painting tutorials.
Oh, yeah. Happy little trees.
Exactly.
Yeah.
He was, of course, just teaching people to paint. But his incredibly gentle voice, the soft, rhythmic sounds of his brush on the canvas, his calm, encouraging manner for many people, those elements unknowingly tapped right into those ASMR pathways.
So people watched for the art, but got unexpectedly chilled out.
Precisely. They found themselves relaxed, maybe getting tingles, without even knowing why. Other examples could be natural sounds like soft, consistent rain, the quiet rustle of leaves maybe, or even someone doing a mundane task with real quiet, meticulous precision sorting library books, carefully arranging objects. The key is the triggers are there, but the original creator wasn't thinking about ASMR at all.
I love that some of the participants in that PLOS-1 study gave such vivid examples of their own unique triggers. Like one 21-year-old guy, P1, he said, I feel like I definitely started off quite light, watching like soap cutting videos, like tapping noises and stuff. But now it's grown into like literally anything. I can watch someone pretend to give me a doctor's appointment, and it gives me the same relaxation as someone like pretending to brush my hair. So yeah, it's quite varied.
It really shows the progression, doesn't it?
Yeah. And then there was P2, a 21-year-old woman, who said her favorite was this guy who is in the Australian wilderness, and he just like builds stuff with his hands like mud huts.
Yeah.
And you kind of see him, he never talks, and that is my favorite by far, just silence in building.
Wow. See, what's truly fascinating there is just how incredibly diverse and deeply personal these triggers become. They move so far beyond simple tingles to encompass complex scenarios, narratives, specific environments, even the absence of speech.
Right.
It really underscores that ASMR isn't this uniform, one-size-fits-all physical thing. It's a tailored experience. It's like finding your own specific key that unlocks this unique sense of calm for you.
But what about people who don't get the tingles at all? You mentioned that too.
Yeah, and that's a crucial point. Some individuals report no physical sensation whatsoever. Participant P3, a 22-year-old male in that study, he actually noted, there is definitely no physical feeling to it. I think it's more a mental thing. As soon as you put it on, it's just like a placebo.
The placebo?
Yeah.
So just the idea of it is relaxing.
Potentially. For him, and maybe others like him, it emphasizes the non-physical, almost psychological or contextual aspects. The effect is more about mental comfort, a perceived state of relaxation, maybe even a form of self-hypnosis, rather than a quantifiable tingle down the spine. It really pushes the boundaries of how we define and understand ASMR. It's not just one thing.
Okay, so if ASMR can be so subjective, even non-physical for some people, what does that mean for the science trying to understand it? How do you measure something that's so personal? Does it actually translate into objective changes science can track? Or is it just a feeling?
That's the million-dollar question, isn't it? And that's precisely what the physiological part of that PLOS. One study aimed to figure out moving beyond just self-reports to actual objective measures.
Okay, so what do they find?
They did 2 studies. In the first one, a big online experiment, they had participants watch a few videos, 2 specific ASMR videos and 1 control video, something neutral. They found that the ASMR participants, compared to the non-ASMR folks, did indeed report more frequent tingling, as you'd expect. But, and this is crucial, they also reported significantly increased feelings of excitement and calmness, and a marked decrease in their levels of stress and sadness after watching the ASMR videos.
Okay, so emotional changes too.
Big emotional changes. And importantly, these positive effects were specific to the ASMR videos. They didn't see the same changes when people watched the control videos. That demonstrated the effects were really linked to the ASMR content itself.
Gotcha. So it wasn't just like watching any video calm them down. It was the ASMR specifically.
Precisely. Then study 2 took those initial findings and replicated them, but this time in a more controlled lab setting. This gave even stronger evidence that these self-reported changes actually correlated with reliable physiological responses.
Heart rate and stuff?
Exactly. And to maximize the chances of genuinely triggering ASMR in the lab, because remember, it's so personal, they used a really clever approach. They asked the ASMR participants to pick a video they knew would reliably trigger their own ASMR response.
Personalized triggers.
Yeah. It acknowledges that idiosyncratic nature, what works for me might not work for you. It's similar to how researchers study music-induced chills. This helped ensure they were looking at genuine, strong ASMR responses. And they observed measurable changes like decreases in heart rate and skin conductance, both indicators of physiological relaxation.
Okay, so there are real, measurable bodily changes happening. It's not just in the head.
Well, it's in the head too. Beyond those immediate physiological measures, neuroimaging research mentioned in that study has started to reveal even more fascinating stuff about trait-level differences in how people's brains work, even when they're just resting.
Oh, like underlying brain wiring.
Sort of.
Yeah.
They found that ASMR experiencers, though it was a small sample, just 11 people, showed reduced functional connectivity in certain parts of what's called the default mode network, or DMN.
Okay, default mode network.
Yeah.
Reduced connectivity. What does that actually mean?
Good question. Reduced functional connectivity basically means that the way different parts of their brain communicate and coordinate within this specific network was less active, less synchronized, when they were just chilling out, not focused on a task. And the DMN itself, it's this big network in the brain linked to internal thoughts like daydreaming, thinking about yourself, your mind wandering or ruminating.
So less connection in the daydreaming network when resting
Mm.
for people who get ASMR. What might that suggest about the experience itself?
The researchers suggest this might mean ASMR is underlined by an inability to inhibit sensory emotional experiences.
An inability to inhibit, so they feel things more strongly.
Potentially. In essence, their brains might be wired a bit differently, perhaps less able to filter out or turn down the volume on these specific sensory and emotional inputs that trigger ASMR for them. It's almost like their internal noise cancellation for certain stimuli is lower, allowing these sensations to really land and create that profound feeling.
Like they're more open to it.
Maybe, yeah. A heightened sensitivity or permeability. And this also helps us distinguish ASMR from other similar-ish phenomena, like aesthetic chills, goosebumps from amazing music or a powerful speech. Those are often linked to excitement, arousal, maybe a faster heart rate.
Right, more intense.
Exactly.
Yeah.
ASMR is distinctly different. It's typically characterized by this profound relaxation, this soothing calm. People use it as a sleep aid for anxiety relief. The physiological responses they measured, like the reduced heart rate, fit perfectly with this calming, unwinding effect. It's a very particular kind of peace, not excitement.
That distinction is really clear. Okay, so building on that sense of peace, here's where it gets, for me, really interesting. How does something you watch on a screen, something totally mediated by technology, create a feeling of real intimacy? Because that's a huge theme, right? This personalized, tailored intimacy.
It absolutely is, and it's one of the most compelling, maybe even controversial aspects of ASMR. That qualitative study highlighted it directly. Participants spontaneously brought up the sexual or pornographic perception of ASMR.
Even when they weren't asked about it.
Even when they weren't asked. Which just shows how linked perceptions of intimacy are with ASMR in the wider culture. But when you dig into their personal experiences, the interpretations of intimacy vary wildly.
Okay, so it's not just one thing.
Not at all. For some, it feels like incredibly warm, maternal caretaking, that deep, nurturing comfort, maybe reminiscent of childhood. For others, it's more like platonic closeness, sharing a quiet, comfortable moment with a trusted friend.
Right.
And yes, for some, it does border on or even cross into a more provocative or sexual feeling, though that's often not the creator's primary intent. But the key thing, as the study points out, is that tailored aspect. Participants consistently felt they could find a comfortably intimate experience within ASMR that resonated specifically with them, satisfying their individual needs for connection, but without the messiness of real-world relationships.
That customization seems huge, finding exactly what you need.
Exactly. It makes it feel deeply personal.
And I read it often connects to deeper things too, like positive memories or nostalgia. It's not just in the moment, it taps into your past.
Precisely. Participants consistently linked watching ASMR videos to mostly positive memories, often things from childhood, tender moments with partners, or even just cherished, relaxing scenes from movies or TV.
Ah, so it anchors the feeling in something familiar and safe.
Yeah, that connection to nostalgia really amplifies the comfort and security. It creates this familiar, safe emotional space. And it's also worth noting the role of female ASMR artists here.
How so?
They are often preferred, the research suggests, for their perceived maternal or feminine disposition, which aligns with that nurturing intimacy many viewers are looking for. Yet, kind of ironically, they're also frequently the ones pointed to as the reason ASMR sometimes gets labeled as sexual.
Ah, so they get typecast both ways.
It mirrors those traditional media dichotomies, yeah. Women presented as either nurturing or sexualized. But if we zoom out, connect this to the bigger picture, you can really argue that ASMR is a kind of digitally mediated indulgence of a natural human response.
Digitally mediated indulgence. Explain that.
It effectively uses these core social and intimate experiences like direct whispering, personal addresses, hi you, sustained eye contact to prompt and curate this unique sensory and emotional experience. It feels real in its impact, but it's safely contained within the digital world.
That's a really powerful way to put it. And thinking
Yeah.
about that digital container, many of us are just glued to our smartphones, right? They're constantly with us, our main window to the world sometimes. How does ASMR fit into that whole digital landscape? And what does its popularity reveal about our need for connection in this, increasingly digital, maybe isolating world?
It's a crucial lens, definitely. ASMR video construction, how people consume it, despite being entirely digital, it remarkably mirrors a lot of face-to-face social customs that foster connection. Think about how ASMR creators often appear incredibly close to the camera. It creates this illusion of direct, intimate presence, this concept propinquity.
Propinquity.
Yeah, it just means the sense of closeness or proximity. It's emphasized as incredibly important by participants. They want the creator to feel close on screen. And this desire for closeness seems directly related to our increasing reliance on smartphones for social interaction and perhaps a deeper underlying issue of societal loneliness.
So the closer they seem on screen, the more it meets that need.
That seems to be the idea. Research has actually drawn quite stark links between excessive smartphone use and feelings of loneliness. There's a smartphone addiction scale suggesting loneliness is often a catalyst for developing that addiction. It's even been said quite profoundly that our smartphones have become our most intimate partner, kind of filling a void where human interaction used to be.
Yeah, that's a stark thought. Our phones as intimate partners. So ASMR isn't just a random digital thing. It might be a specific digital solution stepping into a social gap that modern life, with all its connectivity, but also potential isolation, is kind of created.
That's certainly what the qualitative research strongly points towards. Loneliness was this recurring, really poignant theme in most of the interviews with ASMR consumers.
Really, they talked about it a lot.
They did. It wasn't just why they started looking for ASMR, but also a powerful reason they kept engaging with it. Participants explicitly described using ASMR as a tool, something to actively stave off feelings of isolation and seclusion.
Wow.
So from that perspective, yeah, you could absolutely argue that ASMR exists because of its unique position in our current sociocultural and technological moment, not just coincidentally alongside it. It feels like a direct digital response to this profound social and emotional need for connection and comfort that many people feel, even when they're surrounded by digital connections. It makes ASMR a really telling cultural artifact of our time.
It really is.
Yeah.
And the sheer scale of this is just mind-blowing. It's not some tiny niche anymore, is it? ASMR has genuinely blossomed into this international sensation affecting millions. The growth rate is staggering.
It really has. The numbers alone are pretty compelling. Think about this. Way back in 2015, on average, 11 videos tagged hashtag ASMR were being uploaded to YouTube every single hour.
Every hour. What?
Even back then. But the demand just exploded after that. YouTube searches for ASMR roughly tripled between 2016 and 2020. That shows a massive surge in interest, people actively looking for it.
I know.
Today, just the 3 biggest ASMR channels on YouTube combined have something like 7 million subscribers, and they average over 36 million views every month.
36 million views a month for whispering and tapping. That's huge.
It's massive. This isn't just a fleeting trend. It's a major burgeoning subculture of the internet. And like we said, it came from these obscure online health forums. And now it's centered on huge platforms like YouTube, TikTok. Its existence, its continued growth is significantly driven by this collective goal within the community. They want to legitimize this seemingly strange physiological thing while actively trying to avoid the stigma that often comes with new, poorly understood online phenomena. It's like a movement to validate a shared, real experience.
So who are these ASMR artists then, the creators making these incredibly popular videos? And how much say do we, the audience, actually have in what they create? Is it just them deciding, or is it more of a conversation?
It's definitely not a one-way street. The research is pretty clear that ASMR video production is not entirely driven by the ASMR artist's intentionality. The audience sometimes holds significant sway in this unique power dynamic.
How does that work?
There's a clear sort of gift exchange dynamic going on. It's like a tacit agreement. The ASM artists provide the gift, the carefully crafted content, the comfort, the relaxation, the connection.
Right.
And in return, the audience returns traffic. They give views, likes, comments, subscriptions, followers, sometimes even digital tips or donations through platforms like Patreon.
Right, the currency of the internet.
Exactly. And this reciprocal relationship fosters this unique ecosystem where creators are often highly responsive to audience requests and feedback. They'll ask, what triggers do you want next? Many ASM artists see their work not just as a hobby, but as a genuine craftsmanship. They put immense time and effort into perfecting their sounds, their visuals, their personas.
Right, it takes skill.
It really does. And for them, making a living from it, especially given the positive impact they often have on viewers' well-being, is seen as totally reasonable. It's a deserved outcome for their effective labor. What's really fascinating is how this unique exchange just blurs those traditional lines between creator and consumer. It creates this highly interactive, responsive, almost collaborative content world. It's truly symbiotic.
That's a great way to put it, a collaborative ecosystem.
Yeah.
But beyond just the content, what's in the videos, it's also about how they're made, right? They don't
Yeah.
just present stuff. They engage the senses in a really particular way that kind of challenges how we normally watch videos. You mentioned something called haptic visuality.
That's right. It's a concept from the film theorist Laura U. Marks, and it's incredibly relevant for understanding the unique ASMR viewing experience. She talks about haptic visuality as a way our eyes themselves function as organs of touch.
Eyes as organs of touch. Okay, explain that.
It's about moving beyond just seeing something clearly, objectively from a distance. Instead, it's engaging with the image in a way that evokes a tactile or embodied sensation. In ASMR videos, the images are often deliberately marked by an inability to see clearly.
How so? Like bad camera work.
Not necessarily bad, but deliberate. It might be extreme closeness to the object or the camera lens, making it hard to get perspective, or sometimes intentional graininess, maybe blurring. This obscurity isn't a mistake. It's actually a feature.
A feature. Why?
Because it prompts you, the viewer, to fill in the gaps, to engage more deeply, to lean into the sensory experience rather than just passively observing. And crucially, it encourages you to give up pure visual control. It fosters this letting go of the separateness of the image, allowing you to feel a more embodied, almost tactile connection with what's happening. You're not just looking at it, you're kind of feeling through it.
Can you give a more concrete example?
Right.
Because giving up visual control sounds weird for watching a video.
Sure. Think about a haircutting roleplay video, super popular in ASMR. Even if the picture quality is crystal clear, there's still this profound giving up of visual control involved just by the nature of remediating or digitizing that experience.
Hell.
Well, the viewpoint is often steered in unexpected ways, maybe looking right up at your own virtual head or suddenly focusing on the ceiling or a random object. The performer might move out of your direct line of sight. Their visual presence is often replaced by their voice, and this array of specific sounds, the snip of scissors, the rustle of hair, soft product sounds.
Ah, so you're forced to rely on hearing more.
Exactly. It pushes you towards hearing, towards a more tactile, less purely visual way of perceiving. It actually draws parallels to analyses of early internet stuff like cam girls, who were often described as being too close to see. That closeness complicated the idea of them just being looked at, objectified. It emphasized their control over representation and forced the viewer to engage differently. And it raises this important question. How do ASMR videos, using techniques like these haptic visuals, maybe provide a more ethical, compassionate form of viewing compared to, say, the objectifying gaze that often dominates traditional media? It seems to be aiming for shared embodiment, connection, not just passive watching.
Huh. Shared embodiment. I like that.
And beyond just the visuals, ASMR videos also often use humorous subversion, irony, to deliberately mess with traditional viewing conventions and expectations.
Like they're funny.
Sometimes, yeah, but in a knowing way. A prime example is this famous performance by Heather Feather, an ASM artist. She plays a character called Calming Breeze, a science girl. It starts conventionally enough. She's gently checking the viewer for parasitic worms, a kind of standard weird ASMR scenario.
Okay.
Then the plot playfully escalates. She gets an intern. But finally, in this really ironic self-aware twist, she reveals she's actually a two-faced chemist and criminal, totally acknowledging the hyperreality of the whole role play.
Huh. So she breaks the fourth wall.
Completely.
Yeah.
And that performance isn't just about the sounds, the triggers. It playfully acknowledges its own constructed reality. It intentionally breaks traditional female representation tropes and viewing conventions. It's this subtle but powerful way these creators play with audience expectations. They offer comfort, but also this kind of intellectual wink. They invite you into the fantasy, but also remind you it is a fantasy, a playful construct.
That's really clever. And it underlines that for many people, ASMR is way more than just, entertainment or a cool art form. It's a genuine source of really profound comfort and relief. It sounds like it taps into something fundamental, especially for people maybe dealing with struggles in their daily lives.
It absolutely does. That qualitative study found a really deep personal connection here. Almost all the participants mentioned having some kind of pre-existing mental health struggle, anxiety, depression, insomnia, just general emotional discomfort as the main reason they discovered ASMR, and crucially, why they continue to engage with it.
So it was providing something they needed.
Exactly. It offered a much-needed, often immediate form of relief. And we can understand this partly through something called the online disinhibition effect.
Online disinhibition. What's that?
It basically refers to how people often feel more comfortable, less inhibited, expressing themselves or doing certain things online compared to face-to-face. In ASMR, the anonymous, one-sided nature of the videos allows for this unique, intimate connection, but without requiring any emotional investment or vulnerability from the viewer.
So you get the good stuff without the risk.
Pretty much. Viewers can seemingly reap the benefits of an intimate relation without any emotional or physical exertion. They don't have to worry about being judged, about awkward social stuff, or the pressure to reciprocate like in real-life relationships. It's like intimacy on demand with zero strings attached.
So it's like the safe, low-stakes way to get that comforting social feeling, that connection, without any of the usual stress or anxiety that can come with actually interacting with people. A kind of curated, risk-free social hit.
Precisely. And this is reinforced by the strong desire participants had for solitary viewing. Being alone seems to magnify the positive social cues in the videos, the verbal affirmation, the compliments, the eye contact, while stripping away any potentially negative outside influences or the feeling of being watched.
Creates a safe bubble.
A profoundly safe, affirming bubble, yeah.
Yeah.
Which really makes you wonder, is ASMR reflecting this fundamental human need we have for safe, affirming social interaction, especially in a world that feels increasingly solitary, even with all the digital connections? It seems to offer this perfectly curated form of social comfort, like a digital balm for modern loneliness. It let people feel seen, feel cared for, entirely on their own terms.
And the amazing thing is, it's not just about that individual relief. It turns out if you experience this, you are absolutely not alone. Far from it. ASMR has fostered this incredibly powerful sense of community, this shared understanding among millions worldwide who maybe once thought they were the only ones feeling this way.
That sense of shared discovery, of belonging, is incredibly powerful. It can be life-changing for some people. Like one participant, Axel, put it so well. He said, "I thought ASMR was just a bodily thing and never knew how to explain it. When I found out what ASMR was, it was like an answer to a question I had my whole life."
Ah.
He went on, and that there was an entire community of people that experienced that as well and even try to trigger it. It was really powerful for me. That just vividly illustrates how active sharing within the ASMR community, usually on online forums, comment sections, dedicated groups, leads to what you could genuinely call a pseudo-extended family.
A family based on shared sensation.
Exactly. Tied by a common goal instead of blood. Many participants express real gratitude for the supportive, understanding environment they find there. They say it genuinely helps them cope with depression, anxiety, isolation feelings that maybe aren't understood by people outside the community.
But they might not talk about it offline.
That's the interesting part. Despite this strong online bond, there's often this lingering caution. Some users feel hesitant discussing ASMR offline, mainly because it still lacks mainstream recognition. They worry about a cognitive gap.
A cognitive gap.
Yeah, basically a fundamental misunderstanding from people who haven't experienced it or don't get it. This often leads to them keeping it quiet outside of that digital space where it's accepted and celebrated. It creates this unique dynamic where the most profound connections around ASMR are often purely digital ones.
It's fascinating how a shared sensory thing can build such strong communities, even if it's mostly consumed alone. But okay, ASMR's massive popularity, it hasn't gone unnoticed by, brands and marketers. It's now a multi-million-dollar industry, actively being used in pretty sophisticated marketing campaigns. This is where that intimate world of personal relaxation crashes into the big world of commerce.
Indeed it does. ASMR marketing, well, it's defined pretty clearly as a strategic approach. It consciously uses those soothing audio-visual stimuli, the whispering, the tactile sounds, the slow-motion visuals specifically to capture consumer attention and, let's be honest, to elicit emotion-driven purchases.
So using the calm to sell stuff.
Essentially, yes. And we're seeing it move seamlessly from its niche online roots, like those early YouTube channels, right onto mainstream platforms. TikTok, Instagram, even TV commercials now feature ASMR elements.
Does it actually work for selling things?
The evidence suggests it's pretty effective. Glossier, the beauty brand, reported a remarkable 30% growth in their click-through rates from ASMR campaigns. Starbucks saw a significant 25% sales uplift directly linked to their ASMR-style ads.
Wow, those are big numbers.
They are. And a key technique they use is binaural sound. That involves recording with two microphones to create this really rich spatial sound depth. When you listen with headphones, it mimics real-life 3D interactions much more closely. It enhances that immersive, intimate, and yes, often persuasive feel that brands want to connect with consumers emotionally.
Okay, but with great power, or great persuasive power, comes great responsibility, right?
Yeah.
What are the ethical implications here? Using something so personal, so comforting, something people often seek out for mental well-being just to sell products. It feels like a really delicate, maybe even exploitative line to walk.
It absolutely is, and the ethical risks are significant. They definitely warrant careful thought. For one thing, studies show about 15% of frequent ASMR viewers exhibit potentially addictive consumption patterns.
15%, that's quite high.
It is. So when commercial interests are driving the creation of content specifically designed to trigger these sensations, there is a serious concern about maybe inadvertently fostering unhealthy reliance or overconsumption.
Right. What else?
Then there's the whole issue of algorithmic personalization. While it's great for tailoring content, it also raises real worries about data privacy and the potential exploitation of emotional vulnerability, especially among adolescents who are heavy users of digital media and might be more susceptible to emotional manipulation through tailored content.
Using their feelings against them, basically.
That's the fear. And furthermore, there's this broader, almost philosophical concern about the commodification of sleep itself. Jonathan Curry wrote this thought-provoking book, 24/7, Late Capitalism and the Ends of Sleep. He argues that late capitalism actively attacks sleep, seeing it as the last arena not completely taken up by money, work, and consumption.
Wow, attacking sleep.
His argument is that our natural human routines are increasingly forced to adjust to market demands, eroding our rest. And in this context, you could even see ASMR artists as effective laborers.
Effective laborers, meaning they work with feelings.
Exactly. Their job involves producing emotional experiences, specific sensations, and those feelings, those sensations then become quantifiable, marketable, consumable goods. Their ability to make you feel something becomes the product.
That's a profound and kind of troubling thought, that even our inner emotional states could become just another commodity. So how do we navigate this? How do we avoid the pitfalls, but still let ASMR provide its benefits and, let creators thrive? Are there guidelines?
Well, to address these growing concerns, there's something called an ethical ASMR campaign checklist being discussed. It suggests clear guidelines for creators and advertisers.
Like what?
It includes things like, first, transparency, explicitly disclosing when ASMR is being used in an ad, so it's not deceptive. Second, trigger moderation, advising against overly repetitive or intense triggers that could be overwhelming or feed addictive patterns. Third, age restrictions, making sure they comply with regulations like the EU's Digital Services Act, which aims to protect users, especially minors, online. And finally, consumer education, providing resources on mindful consumption, encouraging people to use ASMR responsibly.
So, being upfront and responsible.
Exactly. But it raises this really important question that society is still wrestling with. How do we balance the undeniable benefits and appeal of ASMR, its power to comfort and connect with the very real potential for exploitation, and the commodification of deep human needs in this digital, consumer-driven world? It's a tension that needs constant ethical thought and conversation.
It's a really complex ethical tightrope. And speaking of challenges, for people wanting to become ASMR artists now, trying to make their mark, the market sounds incredibly tough. It's crowded, and there's some surprising dynamics that make it really hard to stand out.
That's a very real issue, yeah. You hear it constantly in online creator communities like on Reddit. One person put it very bluntly, ASMR production far outstrips its audience. It just vividly shows this totally saturated market.
Too many creators, not enough viewers.
For the core ASMR audience, potentially yes. It's still a niche in some ways, but with this enormous number of creators fighting for attention. And here's where it gets particularly interesting and maybe quite disheartening for some creators. A massive proportion of the ASMR audience that does exist are actually guys looking for female intimacy.
Wait, really? They're not even there for the ASMR.
According to this perspective, for a significant chunk of the audience, they don't really care about the ASMR. The content, particularly from female creators offering close personal attention, fulfills a need for parasocial intimacy, that one-sided feeling of connection, even if the ASMR artist or ASMR itself never intended that. It's an unintended consequence of the intimate format.
Wow. So that dynamic must put male creators, or creators who don't show their face, at a huge disadvantage then. Makes it incredibly hard to grow.
It absolutely seems to. The comment continues, male ASMR channels scrape and fight for every view and subscriber because they can only rely on those genuinely seeking ASMR, meaning people primarily interested in the tingles and relaxation regardless of who's making it. And that audience is TINY relative to the whole viewership.
Yeah, that's tough.
It is. It means just making good ASMR isn't enough anymore. The overwhelming feeling in these communities is that doing something unique is the only way you could stand out in a saturated market these days. It really highlights the intense competition and these often unexpected social and emotional dynamics driving viewership, sometimes overshadowing the core sensory experience itself. It forces constant innovation.
So, okay, we've really journeyed quite a distance here, from this peculiar, unnamed tingling feeling to a really complex, digitally mediated form of tailored intimacy, a profound source of emotional relief, and this powerful, evolving cultural phenomenon. It's truly incredible how this thing, once unnamed, has just blossomed and woven itself into so many parts of our lives.
Indeed. ASMR is definitely more than just a genre. It's a uniquely digital intimate genre and one that really does digital media differently. It fundamentally challenges our usual ideas about intimacy, connection, how we watch things. It moves way beyond just a simple visual gaze to try and create this profound sense of shared embodiment.
Shared embodiment.
Yeah, it's about finding new ways of looking and engaging with the other, kind of dissolving traditional boundaries in a way that few other digital experiences really manage. It invites you to feel something, not just observe it.
And for you, our listener, ASMR offers this really fascinating shortcut, potentially, to comfort, connection, relaxation, in a world that often feels full of information overload, constant buzz, and maybe increasing moments of isolation. It gives us this unique lens to understand our changing relationship with digital media and also our own really personal, emotional, and sensory needs. So the next time you find yourself, immersed in an ASMR video, whether it's for relaxation or focus or that unique kind of social feeling, or maybe just pure curiosity, consider this.
In a world that's constantly striving for ever-increasing digital connection, what does ASMR's unique blend, this mix of tailored intimacy, deep emotional solace, and sometimes even that playful subversion of expectations? What does it really tell us about the future of human connection itself? Does it maybe represent a new frontier of digital empathy? Or is it more a symptom of a world becoming increasingly reliant on mediated experiences? And ultimately, how might we truly find ourselves, or maybe simply find peace on our terms, within this vast, noisy, and often overwhelming digital landscape?